This video is all about portable fire extinguishers and a fire protection plan. So, workplace fire and explosions kill and injure thousands of workers each year. Fire extinguishers are one of the most important parts of your fire prevention plan, but you also have to know when to fight a fire or flee the building. So, choosing to fight a small fire or evacuating is part of a fire protection plan. The decision is made by first completing a risk assessment. Things you need to consider in your plan is, do you do a total evacuation? Do you use authorized and trained employees designated to fight fires? Are all employees authorized to use a fire extinguisher? And the extinguishers could be provided but not intended for employee use. Okay, that's an example when you want to have an evacuation plan. Any fire, everyone evacuates. So the fire protection plan requirements are that we establish an emergency action plan. We define roles and responsibilities. We provide training. We post emergency evacuation routes. We run drills. We have fire alarms and communication. Everybody knows how to call 911. And there's an assembly areas to account for staff and visitors. So the rules of fire safety is make a plan, install alarm, update wiring, move furniture, and maintain systems. So a risk assessment will include to fight a fire or evacuate, identify the fire sources, identify evacuation routes and assembly areas, train to fight, stage fire, train selected employees or all employees, the number and selection of fire extinguishers, alarms, pull stations, smoke fire detection, signage, fire suppression systems, control, etc. So, fire extinguisher basics include the fire triangle. Okay, in this triangle on the top right of the screen is all things required to have combustion. You have to have heat, you have to have oxygen, and you have to have fuel. You have to have enough oxygen to sustain combustion. You have to have enough heat to raise the temperature, to raise the material to the ignition temperature. You have to have some sort of fuel or combustible material. And the chemical reaction to all three of that is fire. So a fire extinguisher applies either an extinguishing agent that will either cool the burning fuel, displace or remove oxygen, or stop the chemical reaction so the fire cannot continue to burn. When the handle of an extinguisher is compressed, the agent, whatever it is expelled out of the nozzle. So the fire extinguisher components include the safety pin, that's usually a breakaway strap, the handle, a pressure gauge so you can check and make sure something's in it, the nozzle, and then you have a high pressure gas canister inside, and the chemical, which would be a dry chemical, carbon dioxide or water down at the bottom. Now, there's a number of different types of fire extinguishers, and some cannot be used on the wrong type of fire. Okay, the type A is like common combustibles. It's wood, paper, cloth, etc. Type B extinguishers are for flammable liquids and gases, such as gasoline, propane, and solvents. Type C would be for live electrical equipment, computers, fax machines, anything along that nature. Type D would be for combustible materials, such as magnesium, lithium, titanium. Type K would be for cooking media, like cooking oils and fats. It's very important that you do not use the wrong type fire extinguisher in the situation. For example, if you put type A extinguisher on a type C fire, you could actually make it worse and have a greater electrocution hazard. Okay, types A is for fires in paper, cloth, wood, rubber, and many plastics. It's a water type extinguisher. It's for Class A fires only. You cannot use them on B and C. Okay, type B would be flammable liquids. We don't want to put water on these. Fires in oil, gasoline, paints, lacquers, grease, solvents, and other flammable liquids require an extinguisher labeled type B. Carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide is not recommended for Class A fires because they can continue to smolder and reignite after the carbon monoxide dissipates. So they can be used on Class B and on Class C fires. Okay, you cannot use carbon monoxide extinguishers in a confined space where people are present because it actually displaces oxygen. Type C extinguishers are for use in wiring. They're electrical equipment. Wiring, fuse boxes, energized electrical equipment, computers, and other electrical sources. They can only be used on Type C fires. A, B, and C extinguishers also exist. They're multi-purpose. It's a dry chemical that's suitable for use on Class A, B, and C. Dry chemical extinguishers will have a label indicating that they may be used on any class of fire. Type D extinguishers are very specifically for metals. Fires involving powders, flakes, or shavings of combustible materials such as magnesium, titanium, potassium, and sodium require special extinguishers labeled Type D. They're for use on only combustible metals. Type K is for kitchen fires. Fires involving combustible cooking fluids such as oils and fats. Don't use a Class A extinguisher, which is water or CO2, on a deep fat fryer. An explosion can result. Water and oil do not mix. Don't do it. Okay, so to use a fire extinguisher properly, first of all, sound a fire alarm and call 911. Identify a safe evacuation path for yourself before approaching the fire. Do not ever let a fire come between you and your evacuation path. Select the appropriate fire extinguisher. Discharge the extinguisher within its effective range using the P.A.S.S method, which means pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep. Back away from an extinguished fire in case it flames up again. Evacuate immediately if the extinguisher is empty and the fire is not out. Evacuate immediately if the fire progresses beyond the inception stage. In other words, don't be a hero and try to put out a fire that you have no way of beating. So the P.A.S.S technique, again, pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep. Pull the pin. This will break the tamper seal. Aim low, pointing the fire extinguisher nozzle at the base of the fire. Do not touch the plastic discharge horn or on the CO2 extinguishers. It gets very cold and you can actually give yourself freeze burn. Squeeze the handle to release the extinguishing agent. Sweep from side to side at the base of the fire until it appears to be out. Watch the area. If the fire reignites, repeat steps 2 through 4. If you have the slightest doubt in your ability to fight a fire, evacuate immediately. It's better to lose equipment and a building than to lose a life. Okay, now there's certain sizes required and certain spacing required for each type of extinguisher. Okay, for a Class A extinguisher, you have to have one extinguisher for office and classrooms and assembly halls every 3,000 square feet. That's per NFPA guidelines. Okay, you cannot exceed 75 feet travel distance for a Class A extinguisher. That's per Osha. Class B, you have to have an extinguisher between 30 and 50 feet travel distance for a dependent or hazard class and extinguisher size. Okay, so 30 to 50 feet. Class C, it has to be in place where energized electrical equipment is used. Class D, you can't be more than 75 feet from the hazard. Class K, maximum travel distance of 30 feet. In other words, extinguishers have to be readily available and close by. The extinguishers has to be installed no more than 5 feet up a wall on a bracket and no less than 3.5 feet from the floor. Extinguishers have to be inspected once a month. This is a good checklist to use as a guide. Is it where it belongs, clearly visible, not blocked by equipment, coats, or other objects that could interfere with access during an emergency? Is the nameplate with operating instructions legible and facing outward? Is the pressure gauge showing that the extinguisher is fully charged? The needle has to be in the green zone. Is the pin and tamper seal intact? Is the extinguisher in good condition, showing no signs of physical damage, corrosion, or leakage? Have all dry powder extinguishers been gently rocked top to bottom to make sure the powder is not packing? In other words, sticking together at the bottom. It has to be loose to work properly. Okay, so this is a picture of all the inspection points. Your hose and connection, the body, the manufacturer instructions, the pressure gauge, the tamper tag, and also properly hung, serviced and dated, no signs of defects. Does it have a monthly inspection? No obstruction to make it visible, and the signage postage. Okay, there are several prohibited fire extinguishers that are old and have been used in the past. Okay, you cannot use anymore with a shell construction of copper or brass joined by soft solder or rivets. You cannot use extinguishers that have to be turned upside down to rupture a cartridge. You cannot use extinguishers that use chlorobromomethane, or in other words, halon 1011, or carbon tetrachloride as an extinguishing agent. These agents are toxic and can cause cancer and can produce phosgene gas when used on electrical fires. And this is outlined in the OSHA guidelines 29 CFR 1910.157C3. There's some record keeping. For each extinguisher in the workplace, you must keep a record that includes the name of the person or agency who performed the last hydrostatic test and test date, the signature of the person who performed the test, and the serial number or other identifier of the fire extinguisher that was tested. In other words, these things have to be tested every once in a while to make sure the shell doesn't explode. OSHA has several requirements regarding fire extinguishers. We have general requirements, we have exemptions, we have selection and distribution, we have inspection, maintenance, and testing, we have hydrostatic testing, and we have training and education.